Oh, we can start. It's so nice to see everyone. My name is Mandy. I'm the moderator of today. My pronouns are she, her, and we're going to talk today about pronouns. Levi has invited us for this talk, and we have this amazing panel. Afterwards, we have time to ask questions or to add something to the conversation. So if there is something you want to share, feel free. In the end, I will give you a turn. Just raise your hand, stand up, say your name and your pronouns, and ask the question or say whatever you want to add to the conversation. And now I think it's a good moment if everyone just introduce themselves. Let's start with you.
Hello, I'm Jackie Weinhaus. My pronouns are she and her as well. I'm a multi-artist from Berlin, somehow, more or less. And yes, I follow this beautiful invitation to be a part of this beautiful panel because I think we have the possibility to make a bigger step for the future to show people how diverse the society actually is, even though not everybody knows about it. And I think we are here to educate and to open doors where doors are closed or even locked. And this is why I'm actually very grateful to be here. So thank you. And thanks for coming.
So, hi guys, my name is Brian Harare, and my pronouns are he, him, and I'm also super happy to be here and at the same time to educate myself for more. And it's a lovely place, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. And then on the other side next to me.
Hi, my name is Cibelle. My pronouns are they, them. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil, and I'm now here in Berlin. I was in London before. And I'm as well really thankful for the opportunity for everyone to come together and go through some horizontal role modeling, some mutual education, because of course it's like we were having a chat before, like the experiences, by all means, like our personal experiences don't reflect the whole, but it's, you know, by bringing people together and with all of you here sitting with us also talking, we can always open and enlarge the picture. So thank you so much.
We sometimes have a trade, yeah.
Yeah. My name's Brains. I come from London in the UK, and I run a club night and music label and clothing line called He, She, They, which champions diversity, and the clothing line is a genderless clothing line. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to taking part in the panel. And that's me. Thank you all for coming.
So as we already mentioned, we're going to talk about pronouns, but maybe you're here and you're like, what is pronouns? I never heard of it. That's just fine. As everyone was saying, my pronouns is she, her, or he, him, or they, them. It's except for a name, someone has a pronoun. So if you're talking about someone, you're probably saying she or they has such great style. Let's keep it positive, right? So that is pronouns. And then later we'll also talk about language and how you can use that in language. And we're also going to talk about why it is important for everyone, so not only within the queer community, to respect pronouns, to use it correctly, and what it is that you can do, even if I'm stretching my sentence. Even if you think that it's not that important for you, by being inclusive yourself, you're making the world a better and safer space and place for everyone. So that's what we're going to talk about. And as Cibelle, as they already said, it's our experiences. So it's not for everyone like that, but still hearing people talk about their experience, it's really important to just broaden your horizon and see how things are for other people. If not respecting or using a correct pronouns, you say that you misgender someone. And that happens a lot to a lot of people. And if it happens once, it's not maybe a big deal, but some people just don't respect it. And that is very hurtful. So I want to ask you, what is the experience for you that someone misgendered you, and what did it do to you mentally, but also Well, what did it do to you if someone misgenders you?
So the thing is, the way I look right now is quite female somehow, like long hair, lashes. It took me quite some time to realize that I do not need real breasts that lactate, or that I do not need a real vagina to be femme or female or a woman. And when I found out about that, it just opened up inside some wisdom, and I felt so great and so relieved. And when I'm not in a dress, I'm just not like a skinny guy with a very flamboyant way to act. But I'm still female deep down inside. And then at work, or when I meet people that don't know me, it's always like, oh, the young man, or him, or he did. And I'm like, actually, it's like she. But then when all day long explaining this to strangers, especially to people who are not related to the queer community, this is a very tough task. So it's sometimes I still cry at home when I'm alone. I'm like, it's so easy, but it's so hard to explain. So yeah, it's still a task, a big one, a hurtful one.
Yeah.
But I think, especially for people who do not know much about the queer community, I don't want to be pissed about their actions or what they think, because they just don't know. They have a lack of education, they have a lack of interaction. I like being flamboyant, I like men with feathers, I like men in sequin, I like women with a beard. And there is much more behind that. And the problem is that many people do not know about that much more behind that. And that makes everything more difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to mention, because you said that in some ways you don't look like a woman, but that's the whole thing. There's not one way a woman should look, or a man should look, or anyone should look.
Yes.
So you do look like a woman because you are a woman.
Yeah. That's the thing.
So that's we have that clear.
Yes.
And then the question is, if someone misgenders you, what is something that you would like them to, or how should they react? Because a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," or defensive, or is that the way?
No.
Me being
but
rhetorical.
I can understand also. There's so much also that I want to comment on what you were saying, but first I'm going to reply this.
Yeah.
So it's like, really, we can't really expect that people will understand, just like she was saying, the visibility and the conversation is still not that widespread outside of like our queer bubble, let's say, and also beyond the binary too, because there's this thing of like, when we get any sort of queer representation, it's very binary and very cis heteronormative. So it's like, woman must be shaven, like the very specific, also very white, like very, but also this very white idea of femininity. So yeah, there's no representation of this fluidity, like you're saying. And so, of course, it's like, even for us, this is why the importance to ask the pronouns, because really we can't really know. And so, in all kindness on all both parts, if you misgender somebody, just go like, you go to me like, oh, because she is a, now just go, no, it's they. Oh, they were. Like, you don't have to be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Or like, oh, but it's so long. It's so many years saying, like, it's okay. You can just go, oh, so we can also say just sorry, really go, sorry, they, or sorry, she, or sorry, he. It's okay. We don't need to be like,
make it awkward.
Make it awkward, or like be beating ourselves up also, because
but it makes it more uncomfortable for you as well.
Us, it makes it super uncomfortable. And also, if we were to say that we never misgender anyone, this would be a huge lie, because sometimes we also misgender ourselves.
Yes, totally.
Because I also notice, like, for example, when you're thinking back, like when I'm thinking back to the time when I used to identify as a cis, not like I ever did identify as a cis woman, but before the vocabulary of non-binary or gender fluid came about, or any of this, like sometimes referring to the past, I can go, oh, because when I was this girl, or like when she was all blah, like making a comment about then. So But it's also, each person has a style. But in the end of the day, what I like to say is always when you don't know somebody and when you're talking about someone and at a distance, even if you know them and you're telling someone about someone, I tend to always just use they, them. Because they, them is not just for non-binary people and gender fluid people. It's just to help bring us out of this super oppressive, binary, patriarchal view of each other. And so it's like, because should it really matter? You know?
This is what I wanted to say. The thing is, of course, it's very nice and very thoughtful to have the feeling that I want to address someone I don't know properly, but then we start to think in boxes again. Yeah. Why do we always have to think in boxes? Because as long as you do not want to do special things, and I do not want to very focus on things right now, but why don't we just start considering the person as a person and not as an object or a gender or a sexuality? Why is it always about if I just talk to someone I don't know or I will never see again, why does it matter what the sexuality or the gender is? Why?
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
I really think of course, we in a social construct that you know things how they should be, but you should always be open enough to make changes, because also language was always changing during the last X hundred of years.
Yeah, totally true. And if we talk about, if we also talking about gender, and then you have gender identity and gender expression, and for a lot of people, those are things that it can be intertwined, but those are two different things. Gender identity is how you identify. Gender expression is how you express yourself and the clothes that you wear. And for some reason, there are a lot of people that think, well, okay, that person is wearing a dress, so blah, blah, blah. But it's a piece of clothing. And it doesn't define, or it shouldn't define who you are. How do you think about that, about gender expression, gender identity, and how is it intertwined or not?
I come from East London, where it's quite open and diverse with kind of thought. But I also originally come from a very small, quite closed-minded industrial town. Now, there'll be a lot of people there who say are non-binary, but don't feel that they can outwardly say, I'm non-binary. I feel like we're talking about the way that things are portrayed in the UK. Non-binary, everything is always, if you're non-binary, you've always got green hair, or you're wearing a certain, if it's someone who is, they're always kind of dressed in different ways, and it's again, it's almost putting a parameter on, if you're non-binary, you should be this.
Yeah.
And it's creating almost a new kind of binary where, I could present like this and be a woman. I could present like this and be non-binary. I could present like this.
Can I say something just real quick about aesthetics? There's this thing of there's currently this third genderization of the idea of non-binary, trying to nail down an aesthetic so that you can still set out immediately. That's already not the whole point. I even made a filter on that's on my account on Instagram that says, when you raise your eyebrows, first of all, you can choose the pronoun that most applies to you. Mm-hmm. So you tap on the screen and you get he, him, she, her, he, they, she, they, them. And you raise your eyebrows and it shows queerness has no specific aesthetics. Or it shows gender has no specific aesthetics. Because like you said, it really touches me what you mentioned about somebody actually being non-binary or being a trans woman or a trans guy, transmasculine, travesti, as we have in Brazil, and not feeling comfortable to be completely out there because of the gatekeeping in the community, because of these aesthetic ideas that we have about people that, you're non-binary, but then why do you have a beard? You're assigned male at birth. Why do you have a beard? Why are you wearing trousers? You're supposed to be, and that's not the point. But I also want to leave a thought that, for anybody here, for cis and trans alike, and non-binary and people that exit even the idea of transness, that, femphobia and toxic masculinity and white supremacist ideas as well, they all live in all of us. So it's very fair that we can identify however way, that we're coming out of our gender or sitting into the gender that's been assigned to us, but we all have to make an absolute effort to get rid of these things in ourselves, because being queer does not automatically make somebody less be devoid of toxic masculinity, less femphobic, less racist, less classist, and all of these things. And really work on deprogramming our gaze for when we encounter somebody, to really not assume gender or anything to anyone. And just to conclude the thing I was saying about the pronoun before, when I say I always use they, them when I don't know people until somebody tells me their pronoun. And always ask people for their pronouns. And from the moment that I know their pronoun, then I use that pronoun. But by all means, I try my best to not use any binary pronouns, and especially if I'm just talking about someone, say, to you, and somebody's not here. Because also, why should it matter that I should say, oh, she told me, oh, did you see her beautiful painting? Because you're already thinking, oh, her painting. Is it pink? I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
And also in expression, like my partner is also...
Excuse me. Can I get an applause for that? Because that was magical. But it's true, but it was so well said.
Yeah, but also
Well,
in expression, that being, for example, in expression that androgynous is not the same as non-binary. A lot of people also mix that up, because my partner is non-binary, and a lot of people would say, oh yeah, but you look really non-binary, and they're like, but how does a non-binary person
This is exactly
look?
my point.
There's not a look for a female, a male, or someone that is not defining in the binary system.
And they're really important points to say, that sometimes there's gatekeeping even within the trans community, or within like, you don't pass, so you're not trying to pass. Because for some people, that's their goal, is to pass. And
does everyone know what passing is? There is this thing that if you are trans, that if you pass, you look like a woman, and that is a problem, because or like a man, or that you look cis. But there's not one way of looking like a cis man or a cis woman. So passing is a really toxic thing also within the community. There is no way to look like a good man or a good woman. You just look like a good human and just be a nice person. I think that is more important than if you want to add something.
Trans enough also.
I was just going to just finish my point on that. Like I think that's a really important thing, and it comes back to your idea of toxic masculinity and these structures and femphobia and heteronormative ideas of what someone should, what a woman looks like or what a man looks like. Like, as I say, I could grow my hair super long. I could present in so many different ways and still be a man. So this idea of passing, I think, is particularly problematic. And just another one of those things that we need to weed out.
This idea of like specific, like keep on grounding everything on aesthetics and being like, oh no, but you're not trans enough. Also, this thing of and also because we got reminded of, like, the audience, not just here, but the internet. Like, if anybody doesn't know what cis versus trans means, so cis just means that so we have the body, we're born, there's the body, and then there's you as a subjectivity, alive in the body. There's nothing from this, from your bits, whatever, that informs you as a subjectivity, as the person that's making the body alive in any way gender-wise. There is nothing in biology, there's nothing in science that would say penis, man, nothing. And also there are plenty of intersex people out there that never really get talked about as well. Like, we need more visibility to this, because 100%. Literally there are 42 types. Also, this is what this society we're talking about here, like, we're in Western society, in the global North, what we understand as women has a specific look and idea and, like, traits and aesthetics. But ultimately, I'll finish the monologue in a second, just to say that ultimately what we have come to understand as being of women and being of men are these traits and aesthetics and feelings and movements that don't necessarily need to belong in two separate boxes. We, at some point in time, came to move some to this box and some to this box, and this, in the end of the day, ends up being very detrimental, not just to queer and trans people, but to cis people as well, because so many cis women don't feel like living it up to what it means. Many cis men don't either, and ultimately everybody has feelings, everybody may or may not like clothes or makeup or whatever, and I think it would make things much more comfortable for everyone if we could just kind of let off of this. And trans means that you don't identify with what they told you and your parents that you should be according to your kid, you know,
Yeah.
your body kit.
Do you have anything to add, Brian?
Right now, it was super nice just to listening to what you said because it's super what I can stand behind, and at the same time, your voice is super calming.
I would like to add something.
Yeah.
I would like to add something to the passing topic.
Yeah.
I think that passing, for example, is another symptom for heterosexism that really defines our complete society. And I would like to, maybe for you as a little like a task for at home, try not to use homophobia as a word for aggressive situations that are targeting queer people, because most of the time it's not homophobic. First of all, many people are not afraid of gay people, so I think heterosexism is much more fitting because it covers more. It covers the crime against trans people, it covers the crime against intersexual people, it covers the crime against queer people, against lesbians, against bisexuals, against gay men. And I think the passing stuff is just another sequence on a very, very, very interesting, huge, overwhelming dress of heterosexism that still defines and covers our complete society. And I think to undress, to get naked, to get rid of this dress and the corset and the pantyhose and like the bra and the heels or the sneakers, there's still a long way to go. But I think right now, and this is why I feel actually really blessed to live in this year, in this country, and I'm happy to be here, but there's still much to do to make the society a better, more open, liberal place for queer people and everyone who wants to be fabulous.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah.
Check your vitals, ladies and
Brian?
gentlemen.
I want to add one thing to what you were saying.
let's
sorry,
talk
go
to
on.
Brian
Sorry,
first.
I don't want to model.
No problem. It's super short. Like at the end, we're all living where we live, and we should never like trying to compare like countries where it's worse. So at the end, we still have our problems here, but we have to find a way out of this situation.
Totally, because sometimes it's also easy for people to say, but we already have this and we already have that.
Yeah, and we're
And that's
already good or something.
but we're not there yet, and maybe there's not really a there. It's just something that keeps on going and going, right?
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. Now, what I wanted to add also to new terms, as you bring like you said heterosexism. So yeah, cis heterosexism. I would say
totally, yes.
And on
cherry
another
on top.
note, another word that I can see fitting for this is the femphobia. Because when I'm talking femphobia, I'm not just talking about putting down, things that are on the body that we associate with the feminine, with the idea of the feminine, but like ways of behaving, ways of seeing. And I see really a lot behind the what we call transphobia and what we have been calling homophobia. Actually, this femphobia is running really deep.
Yeah.
Because what makes them suddenly a cis heterosexual man get really violent when confronted with perhaps an attraction to another person that's a cis or a trans man? It's like, in my understanding, it's really based on the fear of being perceived as of the feminine or as of being passive. Like, who are you? You look like a man. Why are you all feminine? I'm going to beat you up because A, you're tricking me in my desire, but then I'm feeling like I'm finding myself in the feminine. I hate that, but you are a man like me and you're using the feminine stuff, and then that shouldn't happen. Or like somebody looks, like the violence then towards, we talked here the violence towards like cis and trans gay men, but the violence to trans women and travestis. And then when you come to the people that have been assigned female at birth, or the trans men that are not quite there, passing and stuff, it's like, again, it's like, you should, like, there's this thing with the femphobia there, like, why are you playing with masculine signs? Why are you doing all these things? And therefore, let's correct this, let's put you in your place, and you're down because you're feminine, you're a woman.
Yeah, and it's also important to say that it's maybe sometimes hard for people to break out of it because it already starts before you are born.
Oh, yeah.
Like you already have so much labels and stuff you should keep up to before you're even on this world. It's like, okay, if it's a boy, then it should be tough, or don't
And
cry
blue.
because you're a boy. Blue, even if it's just like for 60 years that it was blue because it was the other way
Yeah, it
around.
was red
Totally.
So
before.
it
No
doesn't
pink.
make sense because it's a color. So just wear a color that you like. There's not a male color and there's not a female color. It's a color.
Do you know the situations, especially in German? In Germany, it's still like schwul as gay is still like a possibility to like exaggerate that you are not fond of something, that you do not like something. It's like it's voll schwul. So like it's like
same in the UK.
it's like
It's used
for
as a
example-
negative. Like,
Yes, so it's like this is a gay
Yeah.
this is a gay car. I did not know that cars had actually a sexuality.
You didn't
Please go-
know?
No, please explain it to me. And this is why I'm like so.
You also
trains.
have that in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so mesmerizing,
No,
but
so
this
true.
is the thing that happens all the time because people are very bad educated and they have no idea what they're talking about. And this is a problem. It's a society.
Yeah.
All the time.
And that's why it's good to talk more about it and open up more about it.
and the importance of language, because like you say,
yeah, because I wanted to go to language now. If we look at language, my German is not that good. I had it in high school, but it was difficult with all the dear, das, dem. That was hard, but I can understand. So if you say something bad about me, I will understand, just so you know. And language can sometimes be hard. In some languages, there is nothing as pronouns. My parents are from Suriname. If you are talking about someone, first of all, people there don't like it if you talk about someone, but if you do, then you would just say, that person over there with the white t-shirt that says Levi's on it, sitting there with hands like this, and then you would just look and you'd be like, oh, that's that person. But there's not a word to say he or they or she. It's just that person. You also have that in Farsi, and there are more languages that just don't have that.
I think Finnish also.
Finnish also, yeah. So sometimes language is also limiting. Yeah.
This is where we should go to. Like a country with a proper book decides this is a part of the society. They have a right to be here.
Yeah, and to add on that, maybe for a lot of people, talking about pronouns sounds like something from now. And if that is for you the case, it's just a proof that you live in the West.
Yeah.
Because if you go to other tribes and stuff, like the Maori in Mexico, you have a special word for it. You have the Mukes, you have, if you go to the Native Americans, you have spirits and people.
Spirit.
Yeah. So it's not a new thing. I think it's really important to say that because a lot of people will be like, oh, that non-binary thing, that's like, is it a thing right now? Should I also be? No, it's not. We have a word for it now in the West, but it's not a new thing.
No, that was gone with colonization, my friend.
Yeah.
That we're talking to Colonia right now.
Yeah.
Especially the Native Americans, like non-binary people, are on
God,
a higher level.
yeah,
but also
they
in
have the
India
connection
also.
to the
Also in
gods
India,
and stuff.
yeah.
I see,
Yeah.
a lot of that has a religious connotation. So it's the kind of Abrahamic faiths coming over, and the idea, concept of Adam and Eve, therefore made it like
Yeah,
a two
through
sex, two gender
colonization
thing.
came
Thank
over
God.
because
So horrible.
because if you look at in like in spirituality, they're always talking about like bringing together the energy of masculine and feminine. So it makes sense that then like in India, for example, somebody that would be intersex or would have an expression of gender that kind of merges or goes more to goes to the transness, that would be like seen as some higher being, let's say.
Yeah.
But let's not be hierarchical. We're all here.
No, we're all
Really,
we're all
I'm
even.
really glad that you brought this up with the fact that other cultures have had plenty genders, like plenty.
Yeah.
Forever, for thousands of years, way before somebody decided to go, oh, the year starts now, 2021 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
with Christianity. There is thousands and thousands of years of other
Before
cultures
that.
before this, before Abrahamic religions and colonization.
But if we also look at language, there are people, and I want to ask you this question, that would say, yeah, but using they, them, that's incorrect.
Lol.
Like you cannot be they them because you're like one person. So
Not true.
This
We're
is
many
me.
beings.
No. This is me acting.
I know,
Okay,
I know,
so
I know,
this
I know
is
what
me
you're
being that
acting.
person.
I know what you're acting.
So you cannot be they them. You should just pick one of the binary. You should be
Why?
either she or he.
Why?
How do you react?
Why?
Was that a good impression of?
That's very good.
Yeah, okay,
It's
thank-
like, oh, first I have a little joke, which is like, we are many people throughout our lifetimes. Like, I bet you can look back in yourself and be 1 year ago, I was somebody else. And also, your whole body every 7 years is a whole new body. So you actually had many lives, and there's who you are to your mom, who you are to your dad, who you are to your teacher, who you are to whatever. Ideally, it would be nice if you could be the same person to everyone. Stop performing accordingly and just be like, in kindness and radical empathy. But specifically to the language, as you asked, we use it all of the time in English, in the English language. Just to give a little example, it's like, this is how I usually explain to people when they're like, no, but they, them, plural, how do you know? And I'm like, okay, so let's say you're at your friend's house, and your friend is like, doing the dishes, and they're like, their hands are wet, and you're waiting for some people, you don't know who's coming. Doorbell rings, and there's like, can I get you? You can't hear the tone of voice or anything, the camera's crap. What do you say to your friend who's like doing the dishes and can't get the door? And they say, oh, your friend is at the door. Shall I let them in? It's one person. We use this all of the time.
All of the time.
Yeah.
There's even an expression which is to each their own.
At the same time, I'm just also thinking sometimes the energy that someone's like investing in that. I don't want that change. You could just like invest your energy in that you just trying to educate yourself and change things to what it is now. So you will spend the same amount of energy, but for something that doesn't like hurt someone, especially yourself, because the society will change.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately it's empathy and compassion, right? Like if you really care about someone. Because I also when I find resistance to pronouns and people that know me for a long time, like I'm 43 years old, I have many friends that are much older, and for a certain generation it's much harder. And it's like sometimes it's really the person's attachment to their idea of reality, or they don't want to. There's a lot of ego involved, and I'm not saying that it's like bad egocentric person. Like we don't realize our ego is at play a lot, and it's not something to be like. It's not like pointing fingers on anyone, but it's a thing of like be aware of your attachment and your ego in these situations, because often enough is that you don't want to like these people that are misgendering or they are really being resistant to change, to adaptation of language. They just don't want to change their known. They are very comfortable, and they are prioritizing their own personal comfort to remain on their what is, rather than being compassionate and kind to embrace a loved one. Or somebody that they just met, just another human, to make it comfortable. So I think let's just try to be more nice to each other and accommodating.
I think the problem is that many people are still surfing on the wave and saying, I don't know it, so it's not true, it's not existing. Just because you don't know it, it does not mean that it's not there. Let's go back in time when people thought that this earth was flat.
There's
Which
still
is
people
wrong.
thinking that.
So, and the thing is, just as you don't know, it is still there. Just open up, educate yourself. Just be wide open and accept that there are more visions of
Than
life
yours.
and love than yours.
Yeah. What did you want to say?
Even just in word forms, because one of the first interactions you do with someone, they say, "What's your name?" So, mine's Stephen. So you're going to call me Stephen from now on. So you're already having to adapt what you're going to say to something that I've given you as an answer. And you already have structures, say within English. If you haven't been married and you're a woman, you're Miss. Then you get married and you become Mrs. So we already have transitions in people all the time. We have to change our language to accommodate things that they do. So the idea that somebody using a language, I won't change because of you. We do it all the time at different points. Someone's deliberately doing it to be angry at a specific thing. It's got nothing to do with if you can or can't express those ways of saying something. It's just hate. It's just pure and simple hate.
Yeah, and it's not. I always like to say it's not a piece of pie. Like there's enough for everyone. So it's
100%.
not as if you give someone else a little bit more room, you have to give some of your space. No, there's space for everyone. So just let someone else be who they want to be, and you can just be who you want to be, because it's not as if someone is different than you are, that doesn't matter who you are. Because sometimes I hear people saying, not to me but to my partner, yeah, but I feel like a real man. Okay, well then
Good for
then
you.
good for you. Yeah, you can be whatever that means.
And if
You can be that.
Just like to
Don't.
say something about names also, because we're talking pronouns, but names is also really important, because often people transition and change their name, and their birth name for their chosen name. Like I, for example, I kept my name, but this is because like I really can't sit on the name. I don't even identify with the name I was given. But there's a lot of resistance for a lot of people to use the name that somebody has determined as they transition. So just like Stephen said, you know, how you can learn somebody's name and use that name, you can very well respect the name this person has now and not dead name them, because we're very quick to like, there's this issue of the social name. Like even with social media, there was a problem with Facebook because you couldn't put your name on it. You had to be your birth name and stuff. And it's like, it seems like it's so easy when you meet, like, you know, Lady Gaga is not called Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is called Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody
Uses Lady Gaga. Calls her Lady Gaga. So
Without
why?
question.
No question. No question. So why can't people use?
Because I think it's funny.
But I mean, like, just
It's not
like
the
really
point.
on a serious note, like, why can't people just use the actual name?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my partner's non-binary also, and their name is Coco. And people always ask also, oh, but what's your name? Is this your real name? It's like, don't ask this. Don't ask, is this your real name? When somebody tells you their name, you just say,
That's it.
nice.
Yeah,
How do
that's
you
their
pronounce
name.
it better?
Yeah, and
what
also
is- what is
never
not real
never
about
ask.
it? What is fiction about it? Nothing. It's
No,
just like
nothing.
their name.
It's their name.
And never ask what used to be someone's name, because they would say that name and that means that naming. So if you knew someone before they had their new name, don't use that name, or don't
Ever.
ask
Ever.
about that name. It's not, that name is, it's gone. So leave it there and just respect the name that someone tells you to use.
And
Exactly.
it could be associated with a lot of trauma as well. So you're just because the sake that you feel entitled to use that name, you're causing so much trauma in that other person. It's just really selfish.
So don't.
So don't.
Right?
Just
Yeah.
just don't.
No.
Yeah,
So-
simple.
Sometimes you
Don't.
just like
Face
it's good
value,
to
that's
ask
fine.
if you can educate yourself, but sometimes just like keep your questions for yourself.
Yeah.
If it doesn't help someone else.
Yeah. Or ask yourself the question,
Yeah,
what
why-
what is it that you really want to know?
Yeah.
Is it if you see someone that is non-binary and you ask, oh, but what toilet do you use?
Yeah.
What is the actual question that you want to know? Is it you want to know what someone has in their pants, and what does it matter to you?
Go
Just
there.
think about that, and then it's like, that doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna skip the question. So have that
Exactly.
conversation first with yourself before just
Yes.
spitting it out
It's like you
there.
wouldn't ask a cis person about their genitals, would you?
No.
Like, no.
Or a straight person about the. It's always like, I don't know about. Did you ever have a coming out someone somehow, someday, some blah? So when I was younger and I came out to my parents or to my aunt, and the mom was like, you need to tell your grandmother about your sexuality, and I'm like, why did you tell your mother about your sexuality?
Yeah. You can't, but you
I
don't
mean-
have to.
One of the
Children are
best things
present.
as well for answering questions is Google.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
You can go Google a whole bunch of stuff that will save the other person a lot of trauma. There's so much information out there. It's really lazy, and you don't have to make everyone do the labour of having to explain everything.
And
to
I
you.
will add something to this, and this goes for stuff to do with queer and with race. Like if you find yourself in the privileged position of like, okay, you're a cis person and you got educated about queer, or you're a white person and you're getting educated in anti-racism, talk to your cis friends, talk to
Yeah.
your white friends, and really, because like everybody else is tired and dealing with one's own,
Yeah.
everything.
If we look at, because now we're this is not only the queer community talking to the not queer community, because there's also a lot that still needs to be done within the community.
100%.
And you already said it, like, let's not celebrate like, oh, we're already that far, or compare countries to each other. Your point of view within the community, the queer community, what is still stuff we need to do or talk about or fix or anything? What is your point of view on that?
I think like in the queer community, it is at the same time like we are a human being, and we always like associate things that we know already. And I think just because you know someone or people, it doesn't mean you can put everyone in the same place. And it's also like super toxic at the same time, because like we are as a queer community, we're fighting for equal, and at the same time we don't support each other. And I think it's super important, like if you're being with someone that is in that community and you see that's not right, just gonna tell this person what your opinion is, because we can also just like educate ourselves by communicate and changing like thoughts about things.
Yeah.
I was going to say, within the community, especially the queer one of my biggest things that I get really angry at is this new kind of found buzz. In the UK, there's a thing called the LGBT Alliance, which is basically going that we'll fight for our rights based on our sexuality, but people fighting their gender things, you can go and part. And it's one of the most horrible things in the world, because it's like, I think our community is really important, the LGBTQIA plus one, and that rather than creating this kind of like, to feel that you're in an in-group, you therefore must create an out-group elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we're all right now, we're starting to get like gay marriage and things like that. That they somehow feel that like we don't need to fight for everybody anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most toxic things that is unique to queer people. If you've ever felt oppression, be that if you've felt oppression from racism or from homophobia or transphobia or what was your term?
Cis heterosexism.
Any form of oppression, why on earth would you want to either exact that on someone else or not be an ally and support someone else in fighting what their oppression is? I think it's one of the most toxic things. So I feel like as a cis queer person, one of my jobs is to go and help and be a good ally to people who aren't cis in the trans and non-binary community.
Yeah, because intersectionality is a really big topic, and it should be a bigger topic than it already is, right?
Maybe.
I just want to say something about redistribution of violence, because this is in effect to talk about redistribution of violence, and about bi-panphobia, because this also exists a lot. Like the closest that people are from LGBTQIA community to cis heteronormativity, they end up bundled together. And whoever's on the spectrum, whoever's on the neither, so non-binary, gender fluid people, pan-romantic, pansexual, bisexual, end up being excluded and end up being treated as fake, or
erased.
There is a pressure to be monosexist. So monosexist being you only engage with one gender, be it your own or any other, right? And when many of us, really our attraction is so more complex than we've been talking about. I like people with this body that expresses like this. No, there's, I mean like the smell of testosterone, but the femininity and the way of carrying oneself, and somebody that looks like a fairy. I don't know, but the thing is, like, I think.
Or their mind.
I feel like us in the queer community, in the society, it's not talked about enough. this side of the phobia, of this weight on the monosexism. It's like we really need to do better as a community for LGBTQIA+, but also a society at large, to embrace the fluidity of sexuality, the fluidity of the expression of gender and of gender identity. That is far more liberating for us to be able to just engage with people because you feel like it. And you know what? I'm a sexual random. I don't know what sex is for a long time. I'm just like, what is a sex? And suddenly I'm like, all right. It's like I catch a smell and a vibe, and I'm like, whoa, and then it happens. But there's also this. There's a lot of pressure to be very sexual in the society, and there's a lot of people out there that are not bothered about it. And when they bother, it will be with literally any body shape, energy, smell, hormones, whatever is in the vibe. So we need to be more accommodating of this and be a bit less enforcing binaries on people, be it of gender expression, gender identity, or sexuality.
Yeah.
And talk about intersex people
Yeah.
more.
The pansexual thing's big because I've got a boyfriend at the moment, but my longest ever relationship is with a woman for 7 years, and I always get with whoever I'm with at that moment, it's like, oh, but you don't fancy women, or you won't fancy trans person because you're with a cis male. It's like, that's such an odd thing to say. I'm romantically, I love this person, I'm in love with that person. It doesn't mean that I can't fancy this. I find it so odd, but I've also been told that I'm not queer enough, or I'm not this enough.
But it's the femphobia again, because the thing is, have you noticed this? It's like, if you're a femme, doesn't matter if you're cis or trans, or you're like loosely on the femme side, like, if you are more sapphic, and so in this society, because of this femphobia, as I see it, we see it like this. If you are, let's say, just say bi for the easiest, it's always assumed that ultimately you're straight if you're a femme for femme. Like, because apparently we're all supposed to be interested in men only. Because if you're a bi cis man or a bi trans man, oh no, this person is actually closeted gay because you're supposed to only be into men. Oh, but you're a bi woman, a bi cis woman. No, you're probably just playing with the girls because we're all supposed to be liking men.
If we talk about what we can do in the queer community, it's also important to talk about allyship, and allyship goes further than within the community. It's in the community, you can still be an ally, and out of the community. And being an ally, the easiest way to explain being an ally is, it's kind of what Stephen said. If you as a person, if your rights, everything is fixed for you, there is still a problem if not everyone has all the privileges that you have. So being an ally would mean that you also be there for people who don't have all those privileges. So that's within the community, and that's out of the community. And then the question is, for everyone, so also for us, but also for everyone here or watching, how to be a better ally. There are small things that you can already do to make life easier for people. If you're just thinking by yourself now, sitting here watching, like, what can I do? There are small things. It is really important as a cis, and maybe also ahead people, to have your pronouns in your bio on Instagram. Yeah. It's just a small thing, but it makes it so much easier for others, or not assume someone's pronouns. That are all things that you could do now, even if it's not a thing for you, and you're like, yeah, but it's not a problem for me. Yeah, but to open up like that, you're making stuff easier for other people. And why wouldn't you want to be a nice person?
I think we're in a safe, good bubble with the audience, but also like the audience that is not like get in touch with that in real life. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just make them, and if you see you made a mistake, just be open to educate yourself. And this is, I think, the best thing that we as a panel can give you from this panel today.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you so much for
You're
those
welcome.
beautiful last words.
Oh, and can we thank our moderator, everyone, please?
Thank you so much, everyone.